The Discovery, the first contact High Arbiter. Voss stood at the observation deck of the research vessel Eternal Harmony, gazing at a small blue world spinning peacefully in the void. The planet's surface showed swirling white clouds over deep oceans and green continents. It was beautiful in its simplicity, but that was not what had captured the attention of the Zelani Confederation's greatest minds. The Zelani had explored the galaxy for over 50,000 years. Their tall, graceful forms moved with the patience of a species that had learned wisdom through time. Their pale blue skin seemed to glow with an inner light, and their large, dark eyes held depths of knowledge accumulated across millennia. They were shepherds of peace, having long ago transcended the violent impulses that plagued younger species. "The preliminary scans are complete, High Arbiter," reported Science Director Keth, approaching with characteristic Zelani composure. Her long fingers moved delicately over the holographic data display that materialized between them. "This species calls itself humanity, or humans. They have developed basic agriculture, metalworking, and primitive societies." Voss nodded slowly, his ancient mind processing the information. The humans were in what their xenobiologists would classify as an early civilization stage. They built castles of stone, rode beasts of burden, and fought with metal blades. Yet something about them fascinated the Zelani research team. "Show me their settlement patterns," Voss requested. The hologram shifted to display human cities and villages scattered across the continents. Unlike many species the Zelani had encountered, humans had adapted to every environment on their world. They lived in frozen tundras, scorching deserts, dense forests, and windswept plains. Each group had developed unique solutions to their environmental challenges. "Remarkable adaptability," Keth observed. "Most species remain confined to their optimal biosphere until they develop advanced technology. These humans have spread across their entire world using nothing but determination and ingenuity." Voss studied the data more closely. Human populations were growing rapidly despite constant challenges. They faced predators, diseases, natural disasters, and frequent warfare between their various groups. Yet they persevered, always finding new ways to survive and thrive. "There is something else, High Arbiter," Keth continued, her voice carrying a note of concern. "We have detected traces of Korvac scout ships in this sector. They were here approximately 20 rotations ago." The mention of the Korvac Empire sent a chill through the observation deck. The Korvac were everything the Zelani opposed, a violent, expansionist species that conquered and enslaved other civilizations. They had already destroyed dozens of developing worlds, harvesting their resources and populations for the Empire's endless hunger. "Did they scan this world?" Voss asked, though he dreaded the answer. "Unknown. Their probe signatures are too degraded to determine scanning patterns. But High Arbiter..." Keth hesitated, displaying an unusual emotion for a Zelani. "If they return and discover humanity, this entire species will be enslaved or exterminated." Voss gazed back at the blue world, watching clouds drift over continents where millions of humans lived, loved, struggled, and dreamed, completely unaware of the dangers lurking in the darkness between stars. He had seen too many promising civilizations, reduced to ash by the Korvac Empire. The thought of these remarkable humans suffering the same fate was unbearable. "Convene the Council of Arbiters," he decided. "We have an important decision to make." Centuries of silent protection. The council chamber aboard the massive Zelani mothership Wisdom's voice hummed with quiet debate. 12 High Arbiters sat in a circle, their luminous forms creating an otherworldly scene as they discussed humanity's fate. The debate had continued for days, with opinions divided on how to proceed. "We have always followed the prime directive of non-interference," argued High Arbiter Thane, his voice carrying the weight of ancient tradition. "To involve ourselves in this species' development would violate our most sacred principle." High Arbiter Voss stood slowly, his presence commanding attention. "The prime directive exists to prevent us from stunting a species' natural growth. But what growth can occur if they are exterminated by the Korvac Empire? Sometimes protection and non-interference can coexist." You propose we become their secret guardians, stated High Arbiter Mirren, her tone thoughtful rather than accusatory. Shield them from galactic threats while allowing them to develop naturally. Precisely, Voss confirmed. We establish monitoring stations at the edge of their system, hidden from their primitive sensors. We deflect asteroid threats, mask their world's energy signature from hostile scans, and ensure their natural development continues undisturbed. The debate continued, but gradually, consensus emerged. The Zilani had the power to protect humanity without revealing themselves. They could be silent guardians, watching over this promising species until they were strong enough to stand on their own. The vote was unanimous. Within months, Zilani engineering teams had constructed a network of cloaked monitoring stations throughout the Sol system. Hidden bases were established on distant moons and asteroids, equipped with the most advanced scanning and defensive technology the Confederation possessed. From these positions, they could observe human development and intervene only when absolutely necessary. The first test came quickly. Long-range sensors detected a massive asteroid on collision course with Earth. The impact would have triggered another mass extinction, ending humanity's story before it truly began. Zilani gravitational manipulators quietly altered the asteroid's trajectory, sending it harmlessly into deep space. The humans never knew how close they had come to extinction. Years turned to decades, decades to centuries. The Zilani watched with growing fascination as humanity evolved. They witnessed the rise and fall of empires, the flowering of art and literature, the gradual advancement of science and technology. Human curiosity seemed boundless. They questioned everything, explored everywhere, and never accepted limits on their potential. The monitoring stations recorded countless human achievements. They watched as humans developed printing presses, spreading knowledge faster than ever before. They observed the age of exploration as humans crossed oceans to discover new continents. They witnessed the scientific revolution as humans began to understand the laws governing their universe. Their rate of advancement is unprecedented, Science Director Keth reported during one of their regular briefings. In the time it took the Zilani to develop basic agriculture, humans have progressed from stone tools to steam engines. High Arbiter Voss, now ancient even by Zilani standards, studied the latest reports with amazement. What drives them forward so relentlessly? Curiosity, Keth replied. And something else we have rarely encountered. They seem to actively seek out challenges rather than avoid them. Where other species might be content with stability, humans constantly push boundaries. The protection missions became more frequent as humanity's presence grew stronger. The Zilani deflected 3 more asteroid impacts, prevented solar flares from sterilizing Earth's atmosphere, and most crucially, kept other galactic powers from discovering the hidden world. The Korvac Empire expanded throughout the sector, consuming world after world. Their scout fleets passed near Sol system dozens of times, but Zilani technology masked Earth's biosignatures and energy emissions. To hostile sensors, the system appeared empty except for barren rocks and gas giants. Other threats emerged over the centuries. The Hector swarm, a species of spacefaring locusts, swept through nearby systems but were subtly guided away from Earth. The void touched, machines left behind by an extinct civilization, were carefully redirected before they could detect human radio transmissions. Through it all, humanity remained blissfully unaware of their cosmic guardians. They built civilizations, fought wars, created art, and reached always for something greater. The Zilani began to feel genuine affection for their protected species. Humans reminded them of their own distant past, before wisdom had tempered ambition. Some Zilani scientists argued for making contact, sharing technology to accelerate human development. But the High Arbiters consistently rejected such proposals. Humanity's greatest strength seemed to be their independence, their refusal to accept easy answers. Intervention might rob them of that precious quality. The protection continued through humanity's industrial revolution, their first forays into powered flight, and their early steps into space. The Zilani watched with pride as humans landed on their own moon, established orbital stations, and sent robotic probes to neighboring planets. They will reach for the stars soon, Voss observed during his final briefing before entering the long sleep of advanced age. When they do, our guardianship must evolve as well. Humanity reaches the stars. The alarm in the Zilani monitoring station was unlike anything heard in 8 centuries of silent watch. Station Commander Elin rushed to the sensor array, her usual Zilani composure shattered by what she saw on the displays. A human vessel had just emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system. It was crude by Galactic standards, barely more than a fusion drive strapped to a life support pod, but it was unmistakably operating beyond the speed of light. "How is this possible?" demanded her second-in-command, Jorik. "Our projections indicated they were still centuries away from FTL breakthrough." Elin studied the readings carefully. The human ship was using a form of space-time distortion that was both ingenious and incredibly dangerous. By their calculations, there was a 30% chance the vessel would explode every time it engaged its drive. "They built it anyway," she murmured with a mixture of admiration and concern. Humans knew the risks and decided they were acceptable. Within days, more human ships appeared. Then dozens. The breakthrough had apparently been shared across their entire species, and humans were spreading into space with characteristic determination. Colony ships departed for nearby systems, exploratory vessels probed in all directions, and construction crews began building permanent installations throughout the Sol system. The Zilani monitoring network, designed to remain hidden from primitive sensors, was suddenly woefully inadequate. Human detection technology had advanced rapidly, and their ships were everywhere. The inevitable discovery came when a human exploration vessel detected anomalous readings from one of the Zilani monitoring posts hidden in the asteroid belt. The human ship approached cautiously, its crew clearly puzzled by what their sensors were telling them. Commander Elin faced the most important decision in 8 centuries of guardianship. Contact was imminent. She could destroy the approaching human vessel, maintaining the secret but betraying everything the Zilani stood for. Or she could reveal their presence and hope humanity would understand. She chose revelation. The first face-to-face meeting between humans and Zilani took place in the cramped command center of the monitoring station. Captain Sarah Chen of the EO Earth exploration vessel New Horizons stared in amazement at the tall, luminous beings who had materialized before her crew. "You have been watching us," Chen said, her voice steady despite her obvious shock. "For 800 of your years," Elin confirmed. "We are the Zilani Confederation. We have been your protectors, shielding your world from threats you never knew existed." Chen's crew murmured among themselves, clearly struggling to process this revelation. Their species' entire development had occurred under alien observation. "Why?" Chen asked simply. Elin activated a holographic display showing the galaxy around them. Red markers indicated hostile civilizations, the remnants of destroyed worlds, and the current positions of various threats. "Your species showed remarkable promise," Elin explained. "We could not bear to see you destroyed by those who would exploit or eliminate you. We hid your world, deflected natural disasters, and ensured you could develop according to your own nature." Captain Chen studied the display, her face growing pale as she realized the extent of the dangers surrounding Earth. "All these threats, they would have found us eventually?" "Most certainly. The Korvac Empire alone has conquered 47 species in this sector. They would have enslaved your population and stripped your world bare." Chen was quiet for a long moment, clearly overwhelmed. Then she asked the question that would change everything. "What happens now?" The revelation's impact, the news of humanity's cosmic guardians, spread through human space like wildfire. Within weeks, every colony, every outpost, every human settlement knew that their species had been under alien protection for centuries. The initial reaction was wonder. Humanity had dreamed of meeting other intelligent life, and the Zilani seemed everything they could have hoped for: wise, benevolent, and committed to peace. The technology demonstrations alone were staggering. Zilani science was so advanced it seemed like magic to human observers. But wonder quickly gave way to other emotions. Admiral Marcus Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Force sat in his office aboard Orbital Station Alpha, staring at reports flooding in from across human space. The Zilani had revealed monitoring stations hidden throughout every human system. They had recorded every major event in human history. They had the capability to destroy any human vessel or installation without warning. "They've been treating us like children," Rodriguez muttered to his aide, Colonel Janet Morrison. "Watching us play in our sandbox while they handled the real world." Morrison nodded grimly. "The psychological impact is enormous, sir. Some colonies are panicking, others are demanding immediate access to Zilani technology. The Unity movement wants to join their confederation immediately." Rodriguez pulled up a holographic display showing human territorial claims. In just 50 years since achieving FTL travel, humanity had established colonies in 37 systems. It was an expansion rate that amazed even the ancient Zilani. "And now they're telling us we can't handle ourselves," he said bitterly. "That we need their protection to survive." The divide in human opinion became clear during the emergency session of the Colonial Council. President Elena Vasquez of the Earth Alliance faced representatives from dozens of human worlds, each with their own perspective on the Zilani revelation. "The Zilani have saved our species," argued Governor Thompson of the Proxima Colony. "We owe them our gratitude, not suspicion. Think of what we could achieve with their guidance, and at what cost," countered General Harrison from the Mars Military District. "Our independence, our right to make our own mistakes and learn from them. They've already demonstrated they can hide things from us for centuries." The debate raged for hours. Some humans saw the Zilani as saviors, others as jailers. The technology gap was so vast that partnership seemed impossible. Humanity would always be the junior member, dependent on Zilani protection and wisdom. High Arbiter Voss, now awakened from his age sleep to handle the crisis, met with human leaders in a carefully neutral space station constructed specifically for diplomatic contact. His ancient wisdom had guided the Zilani through countless challenges, but humans presented something entirely new. "We understand your confusion," Voss said to the assembled human delegates, "but you must realize that revelation was never our intention. We hope to guide you to galactic readiness gradually over several more centuries." President Vasquez leaned forward. "But that's exactly the problem, isn't it? You were making decisions about our species' future without consulting us. How is that different from the empires you claim to oppose?" The question struck at the heart of Zilani philosophy. They had acted from love and protection, but they had also assumed they knew what was best for humanity. The uncomfortable parallel to parental control was impossible to ignore. "We have kept you safe," Voss replied, though his confidence seemed shaken. "The galaxy is more dangerous than you realize. The Korvac Empire—" "We'll handle the Korvac Empire when we meet them," interrupted Admiral Rodriguez. "Just like we've handled every other challenge in our history, by facing it head-on and finding our own solutions." The meeting ended in stalemate. The Zilani could not understand human anger at their benevolent interference. Humans could not accept being treated as a protected species needing constant supervision. Across human space, the reaction was becoming clear. Humanity would not accept guardianship, no matter how well-intentioned. They had tasted freedom among the stars, and they would not give it up. The first confrontation came when human engineers began dismantling Zilani monitoring equipment in the outer systems. The Zilani warned that removing their protection would expose humanity to discovery by hostile species. Humanity's response was simple and terrifyingly characteristic. Let them come. The stage was set for the galaxy to learn what happened when you tried to cage the human spirit, even with the best of intentions. The Zilani had spent 8 centuries protecting humanity from the universe. They were about to discover that the universe needed protection from humanity. The war begins. The breaking point. The standoff between humanity and their would-be protectors reached a breaking point in the outer rim system of Kepler 442. Human colonists had discovered a Zilani monitoring station hidden within the system's asteroid belt and demanded its immediate removal. Station Commander Elin found herself caught between conflicting directives. The Zalani High Council insisted that protection systems must remain active, while Colonial Governor Sarah Martinez stood firm in her demand for complete Zalani withdrawal from human space. "This is our system now," Martinez declared during their tense negotiation aboard her colony ship Independent Spirit. "We claimed it, we settled it, and we will defend it ourselves. Your surveillance equipment goes." Elin struggled to maintain her diplomatic composure. "Governor Martinez, you do not understand the dangers. This system lies directly along a major Korvac expansion route. Without our masking technology, your colony will be discovered within months." Martinez smiled grimly. "Then we'll be ready for them." The human colonial fleet had grown considerably since first contact. What had begun as a few dozen exploration vessels had exploded into thousands of ships. Human engineers, freed from the constraints of their home system, had begun experimenting with increasingly aggressive designs. Their ships were still primitive compared to Zalani technology, but they were built with a philosophy the peaceful Confederates found disturbing. Every human vessel was armed. Every colony ship carried weapons. Every transport had been designed to fight if necessary. It was as if humanity expected war as a natural state of existence. "Your species approaches conflict with enthusiasm that troubles us," Elin admitted. "Perhaps this is why protection remains necessary." Martinez's eyes flashed dangerously. "You mean we're too violent to be trusted with our own freedom?" The accusation hit deeper than Elin expected. Wasn't that exactly what many Zalani believed? That humanity's aggressive nature made them unsuitable for unsupervised galactic citizenship? The conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication from the Zalani monitoring post. Long-range sensors had detected something that made everyone's blood run cold. A Korvac probe fleet was approaching the system. 5 ships reconnaissance configuration, reported the sensor operator. "They will arrive in approximately 48 hours. Elin turned to Martinez with desperate urgency. "You see, this is precisely why our protection is essential. Allow us to activate the masking protocols. The Korvac will pass by without detecting your colony." But Martinez was already moving, issuing rapid orders to her fleet commanders. "All civilian ships prepare for immediate evacuation. Military vessels assume defensive positions. Send word to Earth Command that we have hostile contact." "Governor, please be reasonable," Elin pleaded. 5 Korvac ships can destroy your entire colony. You have perhaps 24 vessels, most barely armed. This is suicide." Martinez turned back to her with a smile that chilled the Zalani diplomat. "Lady, you've been watching us for 800 years. Haven't you learned anything about humans yet?" The next 48 hours became a crash course in human nature for the Zalani observers. Rather than panic or submit to protection, the human colonists threw themselves into preparation with frightening efficiency. Mining equipment was converted into weapons. Civilian transports became improvised assault vessels. The colonists themselves, trained in combat techniques, preparing to repel boarding parties. Children too young to fight were evacuated, but everyone else remained to defend their new home. Most shocking to the Zalani observers was the arrival of reinforcements. Word of the Korvac approach had spread through human communication networks, and ships began arriving from other systems. Not official military vessels, but volunteer civilian crews who had simply decided to help their fellow humans. "This violates all standard patterns," reported Science Director Keth to the High Council. "Most species either surrender immediately to superior force or rely entirely on their protectors. Humans are actively seeking confrontation with an enemy they know to be superior." High Arbiter Voss watched the preparations with growing unease. "Perhaps we should intervene. The loss of life will be catastrophic." But it was too late. The Korvac probe fleet had arrived. The Korvac Discovery War Commander Thax of the Korvac Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship Death's Edge, studying the tactical display with satisfaction. The probe mission to this backwater system had revealed something unexpected and valuable: a previously unknown intelligent species. The Korvac were masters of conquest, having subjugated 47 different civilizations across 3 galactic sectors. Their methods were efficient and brutal. They would arrive in overwhelming force, demonstrate their superiority, and offer terms surrender and serve, or be exterminated. Species almost always chose slavery over extinction. What do we know about these humans? Thax asked his intelligence officer. Primitive technology, Commander. They appear to have achieved faster-than-light travel recently, but their vessels are crude. No energy shields, basic weapons, minimal armor. Standard conquest protocols should be sufficient. Thax nodded. The humans had perhaps 30 ships, defending their colony, while his probe fleet consisted of 5 heavy cruisers. Each Korvac vessel was more than a match for the entire human force. Signal their leader, he commanded. We will follow standard intimidation protocols. The communication channel opened, and Thax found himself facing a human female in what appeared to be military dress. Her face showed no fear, only cold determination. "This is War Commander Thax of the Korvac Empire," he announced in the standard conquest format. "Your species has been evaluated for integration into the Empire. You will surrender your vessels and submit to processing, or you will be destroyed. You have 1 hour to comply." The human female looked at him for a long moment, then smiled. It was not an expression of submission. "This is Governor Sarah Martinez of the Kepler 442 Colonial Defense Force," she replied. "We've received your message and discussed your terms." She paused dramatically. "Our answer is, come and take it." The communication cut off abruptly, leaving Thax staring at a blank screen. In 40 years of conquest, no species had ever responded to Korvac ultimatums with open defiance. "Commander," his tactical officer reported, "the human vessels are moving into attack formation. They appear to be approaching our position." Thax watched in disbelief as the entire human fleet accelerated toward his forces. This was tactically insane. The humans were outnumbered, outgunned, and approaching, across open space where his superior weapons would have maximum effect. They must be surrendering, he decided. Prepare for their arrival and organize boarding parties. But the humans weren't surrendering. As they approached weapons range, they opened fire with everything they had. Primitive kinetic projectiles, basic energy weapons, and improvised missiles streaked toward the Korvac vessels. The weapons were largely ineffective against Korvac shields, but their volume was staggering. The humans were firing everything simultaneously, filling space with deadly projectiles. "Return fire," Thax ordered. "Disable their engines. We want survivors for processing." The Korvac response was measured and professional. Precise energy. Beams lanced out, targeting human propulsion systems. 3 human vessels were disabled immediately, drifting helplessly as their crews abandoned ship. Then something unprecedented happened. The disabled human ships exploded. "They are destroying their own damaged vessels," reported the tactical officer with shock. The crews appeared to be detonating their reactors deliberately. Thax had never encountered self-destruction as a tactic. Why would any species choose death over the possibility of survival through service? The battle continued, but the humans kept doing things that defied military logic. Ships with minor damage would ram Korvac vessels rather than retreat. Crews would stay at their posts even when their ships were clearly doomed. When conventional weapons failed, they began using their civilian equipment as improvised weapons. One human transport ship released its entire cargo of mining explosives in the path of a Korvac cruiser. The detonation was massive enough to overload the alien vessel's shields, leaving it vulnerable to concentrated fire from the remaining human ships. Another human vessel, its weapons destroyed, accelerated to ramming speed and struck a Korvac ship at the junction between its command section and engine compartment. Both ships were destroyed instantly, but the humans had eliminated one of Thax's most powerful vessels. "This is impossible," Thax muttered as he watched his tactical display. He was winning. Human ships were being destroyed faster than they could respond, but the cost was far higher than any probe mission should require. The final human ship, badly damaged and apparently helpless, transmitted one last message to the Korvac fleet. "Tell your empire," Governor Martinez's voice crackled through static, "that humanity sends its regards." The ship exploded with the force of a small star, taking the nearest Korvac cruiser with it. Thax stared in silence at the aftermath. He had won, technically, The human colony was destroyed, their fleet eliminated. But he had lost 3 of his 5 ships to an enemy that should have been swept aside effortlessly. Worse, the humans had transmitted everything. Their final signals had carried complete tactical data about Korvac vessels, weapons, and tactics to receivers throughout human space. The galaxy's newest species had purchased intelligence about the Empire's military capabilities with their lives. As his damaged fleet limped away from the Kepler 442 system, Thax composed his report to the Empire with trembling hands. He had discovered a new species, yes. But more importantly, he had discovered something that should have been impossible in a galaxy where the Korvac Empire was supreme. He had discovered a species that would rather die fighting than live in chains. Humanity's true nature revealed. News of the Kepler 442 battle reached Earth within hours, carried by the quantum communication networks that now linked human space. The reaction was swift and uniform across every human colony. Rage, determination, and an immediate call to arms. Admiral Rodriguez stood before the Emergency Council of Humanity aboard Station Prime, Earth's primary orbital facility. Representatives from every human world filled the chamber, their faces grim with resolve. "The Korvac Empire has made a critical mistake," Rodriguez announced. "They have shown us what they are, and they have learned what we are. The question now is, what do we do about it?" President Vasquez rose from her chair. "The answer is simple, Admiral. We go to war." The declaration was met with unanimous approval. In the span of a single battle, humanity had learned everything. They needed to know about their place in the galaxy. They were not alone, they were not protected, and they were not safe. But they were not afraid. The Zilani delegation, led by High Arbiter Voss, watched the human war preparation with growing alarm. Within days of the Kepler 442 battle, every human shipyard was working at maximum capacity. Military academies that had trained small planetary defense forces were suddenly preparing officers for interstellar warfare. "This is madness," Voss protested, during an emergency meeting with human leadership. "The Korvac Empire has conquered dozens of civilizations. They have fleets numbering in the thousands, weapons you cannot imagine, resources from across the galaxy. Humanity cannot possibly challenge such power." Admiral Rodriguez looked at the ancient alien with something approaching pity. "High Arbiter, for 800 years you've watched our species. In all that time, have you ever seen humans back down from a fight?" "But this is different," Voss insisted. "This is not a tribal conflict or even a world war. This is a galactic empire that makes the same mistake everyone makes about humans," President Vasquez interrupted. "They assume we fight because we don't understand the odds. The truth is we fight because we do understand them." Within weeks, the first human battle fleets began launching from shipyards throughout human space. The vessels were unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Where other species built ships for exploration, trade, or patrol, humans built ships solely for war. The human vessels were fast, heavily armed, and designed around the principle of controlled aggression. They carried more weapons per ton than any known design, sacrificing comfort and longevity for raw destructive power. More importantly, they were crewed by volunteers. Every human ship carried people who had chosen to fight, who believed in humanity's right to exist free and independent among the stars. The Zilani monitoring stations recorded the launch of the first major human offensive with growing horror. 12 battle fleets, each consisting of over 100 vessels, departed human space simultaneously. Their destination, known Korvac military installations throughout the sector. "They are attacking everywhere at once," Science Director Keth reported to the High Council. "This is not the behavior of a desperate species making a final stand. This is a coordinated military campaign designed for conquest." High Arbiter Voss reviewed the tactical projections with disbelief. How can they possibly coordinate such operations? They have no central command structure, no unified military doctrine. Many of these fleets are commanded by civilian volunteers with no formal military training. The answer came during the first major battle between human and Korvac forces. The engagement took place in the Vega system, where a Korvac garrison of 50 ships encountered a human battle fleet, commanded by a former mining engineer named Captain Elena Santos. The Korvac expected a conventional engagement, 2 fleets, meeting in open space to exchange fire until one side was defeated. Instead, they found themselves facing something entirely new. The human fleet split apart as it approached, with small groups of ships attacking from multiple directions simultaneously. They used the system's asteroid belt as cover, emerging from concealment to strike at isolated Korvac vessels before disappearing again. When the Korvac tried to pursue, they found their targets had been replaced by automated weapons platforms,